Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and then to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Devasi Sundari Vasari Om Adhyanta Varanda Sakyananda Swati Shaksorum Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is chapter 16. We're starting a new chapter in the first canto, and the title of the chapter is How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. And this is text 1. Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Tata.
Tata.
Parikshit.
Parikshit.
Dvija.
Dvija.
Varya.
Varya.
Shikshaya.
Shikshaya.
Tata Parikshit. Dvija. Varya. Shikshaya.
Tata Parikshit. Dvija. Varya. Shikshaya.
Okay. Mahim.
Mahim.
Maha. Bhagavata.
Bhagavataha.
Sasasa.
Sasasa.
Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasaha.
Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha.
Yatha.
Yatha.
Hi. Sutyam.
Sutyam.
Abhijata.
Abhijata.
Kovita.
Kovidaha.
Yatha hi. Sutyam Abhijata Kovita.
Yatha hi Sutyam Abhijata Kovidaha.
Samadhisham.
Samadhisham.
Vipra.
Mahat. Gunas. Tatha.
Samadhisham Vipra Mahagunas Tatha.
Samadhisham Vipra Mahat Gunas Tatha.
Anyway, Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Tata Parikshit Dvija Vaya Shikshaya.
Tata Parikshit Dvija Varya Shikshaya.
What's the right melody? That's what I just did.
I just dropped it near the end. I dropped it back up. The same.
Okay, alright. So, Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasaha.
Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha.
Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovida.
Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovida.
Samadhishan Vipra Mahagunas Tata.
Samadhishan Vipra Mahagunas Tatha.
Tata Parikshit Dvija Vaya Shikshaya.
Tata Parikshit Dvija Varya Shikshaya.
Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha.
Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha.
Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovida.
Yatahi Sutyam Abhijata Kovida.
Samadhitam Vipra Mahagunas Tata.
Samadhishan Vipra Mahagunas Tatha. Sutta Uvacha. Tata Parikshit Dvija Varya Shikshaya. Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha. Yatha hi Sutyam Abhijata Kovidaha. Samadhishan Vipra Mahat Gunas Tatha. Sutta Uvacha. Tata Parikshit Dvija Varya Shikshaya. Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasasaha. Yatha hi Sutyam Abhijata Kovidaha. Samadhishan Vipra Mahagunas Tatha.
So, okay, we'll do the word for word. I wasn't gonna put pressure on it, but if you want to, let's go ahead. So, I mean, beginning, anyway, with that, I was really into Krishna consciousness, but I didn't want to learn another language. I was really bad in Spanish, and then this. But then all of a sudden, we all had to start chanting it, so I'm still struggling almost 50 years later. So, anyway, it's purifying. Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Uvacha.
Sutta Goswami said.
Sutta Goswami said.
Tata. Thereafter.
Thereafter.
Parikshit.
Parikshit,
Maharaj Parikit,
Maharaj Parikit,
Dvijabhaya,
Dvijabhaya,
the great twice born,
the twice born,
Brahmanas,
Brahmanas,
Shikshaya,
Shikshaya,
by their instructions,
by the instructions,
Mahim,
Mahim,
the earth,
the earth,
Mahabhagavata,
Mahabhagavata,
the great devotee,
The great devotees,
Sasasa,
Sasa,
ruled,
ruled,
Ha,
Ha,
in the past,
in the past,
Yata,
Yata,
as they told
as
it,
they told it.
Well, I didn't see it over. He
He,
certainly,
certainly,
Sutyam,
Sutyam,
at the time of his death,
at the time of his death,
Abhijata Kovida,
Avijata Govita,
expert astrologers at the time, expert astrologers at the time of birth.
expert astrologers at the time of birth.
Samadhishan
Samadhishan,
gave their opinions.
give their opinions.
Vipra,
Vipra,
O Brahmanas,
O Brahmanas,
Mahat Guna,
Mahaguna,
great qualities.
great qualities,
Tata,
Tatha,
true to that.
true to that.
So I'll say, and then you repeat me, please. Sutta Goswami said,
Sutta Goswami said,
O learned Brahmanas,
O learned Brahmanas,
Maharaj Parikit
Maharaj Parikshit,
then began to rule over the world
then began to rule over the world
as a great devotee of the Lord,
As a
great devotee of the Lord,
under the instructions
under the instructions
of the best
of the best
of the twice-born Brahmanas.
of the twice-born Brahmanas.
He ruled
He ruled
by those great qualities
by those great qualities
which were foretold
which are foretold
by expert astrologers
by expert astrologers
at the time of his birth.
at the time of his birth.
So the translation is, Sutta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaj Parikit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the twice-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those great qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of his birth. Srila Prabhupada's purport.
Srila Prabhupada.
At the time of Maharaj Parikit's birth, the expert astrologer Brahmanas foretold some of his qualities. Maharaj Parikit developed all those qualities, being a great devotee of the Lord. The real qualification is to become a devotee of the Lord. And gradually, all the good qualities worthy of possession developed. Maharaj Parikit was a Mahabhagavat, or a first-class devotee, who was not only well-versed in the science of devotion, but also able to convert others to become devotees by his transcendental instructions. Maharaj Parikit was, therefore, a devotee of the first order, and thus he used to consult great sages and learned Brahmanas who could advise him by the Shastras, or the scriptures, how to execute the state administration. Such great kings were more responsible than modern elected executive heads because they obliged the great authorities by following their instructions left in Vedic literatures. So let me see that again. Because they obliged the great authorities by following their instructions left in Vedic literatures. There was no need for impractical fools to enact daily a new legislative bill and to conveniently alter it again and again to serve some purpose. The rules and regulations were already set forth by great sages like Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parasara, and other liberated souls, and the enactments were all suitable for all ages in all places. Therefore, the rules and regulations were standard and without flaw or defect. Kings like Maharaj Parikit had their council of advisors, and all the members of that council were either great sages or Brahmanas of the first order. They did not accept any salary, nor had they any necessity for such salaries. The state, and this is italicized, the state would get the best advice without expenditure. They were themselves Sama Darshi, equal to everyone, both man and animal. They would not advise the king to give protection to man and instruct him to kill the poor animals. Such council members were not fools or representatives to compose a fool's paradise. Then he doesn't pull any punches. They were all self-realized souls, and they knew perfectly well how all living beings in the state would be happy, both in this life and in the next. They were not concerned with the hedonistic philosophy of eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. They were philosophers in the real sense, and they knew well that in the mission of human life, and they knew well what is the mission of human life. Under all these obligations, the advisory council of the king would give correct directions, and the king, or executive head, being himself a qualified devotee of the Lord, would scrutinizingly follow them for the welfare of the state. The state in the days of Maharaj Yudhisthira or Maharaj Pariksit was a welfare state in the real sense of the term, because no one was unhappy in that state, be he man or animal. Maharaj Pariksit was an ideal king for a welfare state of the world. So it's again, Tata Pariksit Tuija Vaya Shaya Mahim Maha Bhagavata Sasha Saha Yatahi Sutyam Abhijat Kovida Samadhisam Vipra Maha Gunastata. Sutta Goswami said, O learned Brahmanas, Maharaj Pariksit then began to rule over the world as a great devotee of the Lord under the instructions of the best of the twice-born Brahmanas. He ruled by those qualities which were foretold by expert astrologers at the time of death.
Of his birth.
Of his birth, yes, excuse me, yes. Yeah. I was testing you to see if you were paying attention. So obviously, like I said, my mind is elsewhere right now. But so, you know, the storyline here, just to catch up a little bit, is Vidura, who is like his great uncle, came to Dhritarashtra, who was the father of Duryodhana and the Kauravas, who fought against the Pandavas for the battle of control of the earth. And Vidura he warned Dhritarashtra that Kali was coming. That Kali is the winter age of human society. There's Satya Yuga, the summer or spring. Then there's the Treta, which would be summer. The fall is the Dwapara, and then the winter is the Kali Yuga. Manda Matayaro, the most inauspicious of all. It's winter. Like he's warning. He's saying winter's coming. You know, Kali is coming, and and in this age, everyone is unlucky. The spiritual virtues are all gone. It's just darkness, very inauspicious. The norm is the sinful activities. And even when you read about Yudhisthira, who was the emperor, who was the great uncle of Pariksit, because his father, Parikit's father, was killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. And so Yudhisthira was the emperor after the battle of Kurukshetra was fought, and he begins to see the symptoms of Kali coming, and he realizes that Krishna has left the planet, and it's like the setting of the sun. It's like darkness is coming, and if you read some of those omens that he sees, they're like quite normal. You know, they're nothing. They were, you know, amazing to him, but for us, they sound like just another day. You know? So this is the time for them. They've done their job and helped to Krishna with his pastimes. And now it's time for them to resign from their administrative post. And they knew that Parikshit Maharaj was qualified to take over the rule of the earth. In those days, there was one emperor that ruled the whole planet. There were little states, that had like sort of little kingdoms, but they all surrendered to one emperor who ruled everyone. Not like today, it's like whatever, 3,000 flags. I'm exaggerating, but the United Nations, every year they add new countries, So there was one ruler, and this ruler was a saintly king because he took advice from saints, from brahmanas, learned scholars who studied the scripture, who were all pure of character, and they took no salary for giving their advice. And all of their advice was based on the scriptures. And so they were following the laws of the Creator, of God. Not man-made. We have man-made laws, but if those man-made laws are not in harmony with the Creator's laws, you're going to have some problems, Like even, you just take a small example of, I'm not exactly sure what it says in the Bible about interest rates, but in terms of like credit cards and bank rates and so on. But I know that what they do today is not biblical. The interest rates that they charge are, criminal, even according to, the Bible and what to speak of the Vedas. So that's just one small example. Slaughterhouses. I mean, there was animal sacrifice. Even in the Old Testament, it explains that you could sacrifice certain animals, and you had to put them on an altar that was so many cubits by so many cubits, and it had to be done by a priest. And it gives all the specifics of how this animal was to be sacrificed. And in the Vedas, it says that the priest would whisper into the ear of the animal, "I am killing you now, but in my next life, you will have the opportunity to kill me." So that you're fully aware of the fact that there's a karmic reaction for wanting to eat flesh, taking someone's life like that. There is there are dietary restrictions. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the diet for the human being. It says, "Pratam pushpam phalam toyam yom me bhakta prayasati." Fruit, a flower, a leaf, water. Offer this with love and devotion, and I will accept that. So in other words, fruits, grains, these things are the... But it's not that we're just advocating vegetarianism. It should be offered to God. Not that God is hungry, but maybe he's hungry for our love. I mean, he's got many devoted servants, but he's trying to encourage us to reawaken our own original constitutional position, which is loving servants of the Supreme Lord. And so human society, is meant for directing the souls in the human bodies towards, it's a progressive civilization, in the sense that if you've taken birth in the human form of life, you're to progress towards getting liberation out of the cycle of birth and death. If you're born in the lower species, then it's helping you to rise up faster to the human form of life. Everything is geared towards helping the souls engage within this material existence on how to become free of this material existence. And when you read this purport, it sounds like almost like, something, that you would read in, some kind of like Lord of the Rings or something. Everybody was happy, and there was no problems, and the weather was perfect. But it doesn't seem possible, But the fact is, It's a fact. It's not mythological. If you're following the laws of the Creator and you're in harmony with the laws of the Creator, everything is working harmoniously. And this is the purpose of government, and this is what the Bhagavatam is explaining to us, that there is other ways of living other than what we know now, and that we ourselves, whether we can create a Vedic civilization like being described like this, that's a mighty task. But at least we ourselves can follow in the footsteps of these great souls, these great devotees, and try to apply that to our own life, and try to share that, with our own realizations with other people, and try to distribute that knowledge, because that is the highest welfare in human society. So these are real people. Maharaj Parikshit is an authentic person. He's an actual, caring, loving devotee who is in charge of the whole planet. He's a Mahabhagavad. He sees Pandita Samadarshana. He sees all living entities. The dog eater, the cats, the tigers, the elephants, the human being. He sees them all as spirit souls, as all as part and parcels of the Supreme Lord, caught up in this cycle of birth and death. And he's not ruling out of some, really deep-seated ambition to be the biggest controller, or he didn't get this post by manipulating votes and having, catchy slogans and, raising campaign funds and, promising this and promising that. No, he was chosen by saints, by Brahmins, and that this is the most qualified person and they knew the real science of astrological calculations. There is an actual bona fide astrological science that can help human beings, but it's hard to find bona fide astrologers in this age. But Prabhupada talks about that his chart, he was told that at the age of 70, he would travel to foreign places, and he would open many centers, many temples, and that came to pass. It was predicted by an astrologer, and it actually happened. So there was, at that time, Prabhupada's birth, which was like 1896, wasn't it? Something like that. Yeah. There were still bona fide astrologers, and it got even more detailed than that. They even would start from they would choose the bright day for the planting of the seed in the womb. The right day for conception, because then everything would be more favorable. And then they would do all the different calculations, all the different reformatory practices along the way. The first time you cut your hair, the first time you eat grains, it was all very well planned and calculated to help you, develop the proper qualities necessary to be a civilized human being, and to help to develop this higher state of Krishna consciousness. And under this kind of leadership, the people themselves were all happy, and there wasn't any want or fear. They weren't afraid of, crime happening. They weren't afraid of becoming too poor, or they weren't envious or coveting someone else's wealth. Everyone was satisfied. The Brahmins themselves took no salary. They lived in like little grass huts. There's the story of Chanakya Pandit, who was a great advisor, Brahminical advisor to I can't remember the name of the king, but he helped this king in a lot of ways, and helped him, gave him advice so that he was able to defeat this other group, so that he could control a certain part of India. And it says that one day he went to give the king some advice, and the king wasn't interested in it. And so at that time, Janaka Pandit decided, okay, he doesn't need my advice. So he just went back to his cottage, packed up the few possessions he had, and he went to the forest. The king said, what are you doing? He said, well, I've given you my advice. You don't want to take my advice. You don't need my advice. I'm not needed. So then they weren't dependent on the king. And in this way, if they were taking salary, if they were, getting some benefit from the king, then their advice would be influenced in different ways that wasn't true. It may be influenced in a way that wasn't really beneficial. So this is the kind of Brahmins that we're talking about, that they weren't interested in any kind of material comforts for themselves. They were only interested in truth, and being true to themselves, and being authentic. Actually, not trying to put on airs that I'm very learned, I'm the smartest person in the room, or I'm the most powerful, I have the most followers, or the king is the strongest, the most powerful. All those things may be, but those weren't the real issues for them. The real issues for them were the welfare of the people and pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. That was the real interest. Now, as Prabhupada states in this purport, we have these legislative bodies, and it's interesting, he said, that they create a fool's paradise. Because, if you think about it, it's like, I was thinking about when I was just now reading it, I thought when Prabhupada said fools, and for some reason I thought of that song by the Beatles, Fools on a Hill, because the legislators, where they reside, they call it the Hill in America. It's the Hill. So I was thinking, the fools on the Hill, writing laws and bills, always motivated for their own personal profit, or for the people that are paying their campaigns. They're just trying to satisfy those corporate interests, and they're not really interested necessarily in the people's welfare. What to speak of the poor animals? So we have a fool's paradise. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? And it's not real hard. It's not a hard sell. What's the hard sell is to say that there's actually a possibility of having a civilization that is sane, that is geared towards not just how much you can accumulate in this lifetime, whether or not you have the biggest house on the block, you have the best and newest car. Actually the whole principle of our economy is based on keeping up with the Joneses. That was the expression they used to use. I remember that you need greed for it to work. You see your neighbor just buys a new car, and actually they have two cars, and you only have one, and yours is 2 years old. Well, you have to keep up. Keeping up with the Joneses, they used to say. And I remember when we were growing up, people just had one car. In the beginning, I actually remember that we just had a radio, and then we got a TV, and just one TV, and didn't always work. There was only a couple of stations. Of course, I was in New York, so you got more than 3. You had like maybe 4 others, local ones. But you had to sometimes stand there and hold the antenna and put aluminum foil, and it was open. And then progressively things started getting more and more. And now it's like it's completely out of control. the amount of stuff that you have to have in order to be happy. But who is happy? Tell me who is satisfied. The more you get, the more you want. It never ends. Where was it? Oh, I was reading about Vamana Dev and Bali Maharaj. So the story is, for those who may not know, is Bali Maharaj is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, who was a great devotee, but he's also, Bali Maharaj was the king of the anti-gods, or what we would call demons, the lower regions. It's very interesting because these so-called materialists, like Bali Maharaj, and he was the king of, his planet is called Sutala. And he wanted to take control of the heavenly planets, because there's hellish planets and there's heavenly planets. But if you read about Bali Maharaj, he's so far superior to any of, even the best of our political leaders. And this is supposed to be the king of the demons. And he's performing a sacrifice that he wants to take over heaven. He wants to rule heaven. And the person in charge of heaven is Indra. And so he has a guru, and the guru is showing him how to do these sacrifices. And then, just at the time they're about to perform the 100th sacrifice, when he'll then achieve control of the celestial realm, someone comes in and says, there's a mendicant at the door, a dwarf, and he is asking for some charity. And the guru says, you can't stop now, this is the time. Right now, you have to do the sacrifice right now. And otherwise the time will pass. But Bali says, but there's a mendicant at my door that's not satisfied. He needs something. I must fulfill his desires. Otherwise, I'm not being a proper king. So he goes to see this dwarf mendicant. And so he says, what is it can I give to you? And he lists all these. I can give you a continent, I can give you islands, I can give you gold mines, rubies, whatever you want. I control everything. And so what would you like? And the dwarf, his name is Vamana, he says, I would like 3 steps of land. Whatever, I take 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, that much land, that's what I want. And Bali's insulted by it. He says, what is this? I can give you anything. I can give you a planet. I'll give you this planet, Earth. I'll give it to you. You're insulting me by asking for 3 steps of land? Please. And so Vamana says, well, if I'm not satisfied with 3 steps of land, then how am I going to be satisfied with the whole planet? I mean, he says to him, Vamana says to him, the dwarf, Brahmana, says to him, you, Maharaj, are you satisfied with what you have? Aren't you trying to get more? You already control most of the universe, and now you're trying to get what's Indra's. You're still not satisfied. So why do you think just by getting the earth I'll be satisfied? I have simple needs. My simple needs are I just need enough land that will take 3 steps. And Bali's like becoming really like taken aback. That's right, I'm not happy. I'm not satisfied. I've got all of this and I'm still wanting more. And so then his guru comes. And his guru realizes that this dwarf Brahmin is not who he appears to be. He's actually Vishnu. He's actually Krishna. in disguise, and he's trying to trick him out of all of his wealth. And he tells him, "This is a trick. This is a, he's trying to take everything." And it says in the scripture that if you give, if someone asks for in charity something from you that takes away all of your wealth and leaves you without anything, then that is not. You can reject that offer or that request. You can reject that because you can't be left with nothing. And actually, you're only supposed to give 1/5 of your wealth. And he gives these reasons or something like that. I don't know if it's 1/5. Or, I mean, I've always heard 50%. But so anyway, you're only supposed to give a certain percentage of your wealth, not everything. This is Vishnu. He's going to take everything from you. And then Bali Maharaj says, "But wait a second. All of your mantras and every time you do the offerings, you're always saying, you're saying prayers to Vishnu. That Vishnu is pleased, that he's the supreme controller of the demigods. Why are you telling me, 1 minute you're saying we have to pray to Vishnu, and the next minute you're telling me this is Vishnu, and he's asking from me 3 steps of land, and I shouldn't give it to him? What kind of a guru are you?" And this is a demon. He's a demon. I mean, that's how in Kali Yuga. So imagine some of the people we have as leaders now. I don't want to really get into them, but their charity is always some kind of cover that it gives back to themselves, or so that they don't have to pay any taxes. It's all very well calculated. Well, you actually owe 5 million in taxes, but if you give this 2 million, then you won't have to pay the 5 million in taxes. So, and you give it to this group over here that actually is helping you to build a golf course. Oh, good idea. That's what I'll do. I'm giving it charity. Look, here's my money. I mean, they got all kinds of scams. I'm sure I'm not explaining it the way they're much more clever than that. I haven't been really paying attention, but you understand the point. And so he said, he tells Sukracharya, his guru, "I'm sorry, I can't accept your advice. I know you're my guru, but I can't accept it. Besides that, my grandfather is Prahlad Maharaj, and he was a great devotee of, he is a great devotee of Vishnu. And my father wasn't Virochana, right, thank you. And they wouldn't approve of this. So then the Sukracharya says, "Then I curse you." And blah blah blah, and says what the curse is. And he says, "Well, then I must accept that curse."
I think it was to lose everything.
Well, he's going to anyway. Was it? Was that
I
it?
think that was the curse.
Whatever it was. Yeah. And then Vamanas, I can't remember. I haven't read it recently, but I was just thinking about it. And so I haven't read it in a long time. But anyway, so but what the point is that you're never satisfied. It's never enough. Like my wife and I, we thought, we just get this thing together, and that thing together. You have your pension, and then just a little bit of saving there, and that'll be it. And then we're thinking, it's not enough. No, we only could get that. We should have thought of that. It's never enough. So simplicity, and certain people, this is the shopping thing. I'm not really that big on it, but some people are. Maybe we'll delete this one. But yeah, shopping is an issue, and so anyway, back to the story. I digress. That wasn't nice. So excuse me. I apologize. So Bali says, I'm not. Curse me whatever you want. This is Vishnu. If this is really Vishnu as you say, and I trust you that you know what you're talking about, I'm giving him in charity what he's requested. Even if he isn't Vishnu, he's a Brahmin, and he's asking me for 3 steps of land. Surely I can provide that. So he takes all of a sudden, and then actually Vamana then says some things, and I can't remember, it was very eloquent. And then all of a sudden he starts to expand himself. And everyone's like, oh my God, he is Vishnu, he's huge. And he takes his first step and it covers the whole planet. I was thinking that you actually see this lotus feet with all the markings coming. And then he expands some more, and the next one goes all the way and covers all the planetary systems up to the covering. And isn't it that his toe goes through the covering?
Yes.
And then the water from what's the name of the river? Viroja? River? No, not Viroja. It's something, what is it called?
Maybe it's causal ocean.
The causal ocean, but there's a river too. Anyway, and that is how, like, the Ganges, I believe, starts to come down. Of course, there's another whole story how the Ganges was brought down to the earth, but it was up in the heavenly realms, that river. And it's pure, and it washes away all sins, this water. And that's another whole long story. But so anyway, so now after 2 steps, he's covered the earth and all of the other planetary systems. But he's also brought the Ganges into the universe. So now he says, okay, I still have one more step. Where should I put it? I mean, if you can't fulfill your desire, then, there's consequences. A man can ask you for a charity, and then you say you can do it, and you can't do it. He says, well, I have nothing left but myself. I ask you to put your last step on my head. And then the Lord is pleased with him and places his lotus feet on his head. And then Bali Maharaj, he gets more than he could ever dream. He still is existing in the universe. He's in charge of the Sutala planet. And Lord Vishnu resides with him. It's interesting. It's a hellish planet, but a great devotee is in charge of it, and Vishnu is there, living there with him. And in a few more cycles of the 4 yugas, he will become Indra. So, but my point was that we're never satisfied. We always want more. And these Brahmins that are giving advice to the king, they are satisfied. They're self-satisfied. Because real satisfaction, just like we understand when we hear the story of Dhruva Maharaj. He was a 5-year-old boy, and he was insulted by his stepmother, and he decided to go and perform austerities that he could achieve a kingdom greater than his grandfather, who would have been Lord Brahma. In other words, he wanted a kingdom greater than the entire universe. And Narada Muni, a great sage, tells him, you're kind of young to do this. This is very dangerous living in the forest. Maybe you should wait. Everyone tells him to wait. He said, I will not. I want. I'm determined. And this is the Kshatriya spirit. And so Narada Muni gives him a mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And I'll wrap this all up very soon. And in 6 months, he achieves perfection. And then he sees Krishna. And when he sees Krishna, he's thinking, oh my God, he's so beautiful. He's amazed. He actually sees God. He sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Vishnu says, so I will fulfill your desires. Oh, no, that's okay. I don't need that. I don't need a kingdom. I'm just a kid. What do I know? I see you. I just want to be with you. I want to serve you. So that's very nice, but you have to get this. You have to be in charge of your Father's kingdom for 36,000 years and live out the results of your pious works. And then after that, you will go and rule the pole star, the North Star, which is an actual Vaikuntha planet. And Dhruva lives there, and Vishnu lives there. And he lives there eternally. But after doing it, he didn't want what it was he was so determined to get. He just wanted the darshan and the service of the Supreme Lord. That's how amazing. You actually, by chanting these mantras, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and doing these rituals, if you want, doing this service, devotional service, actually devotionally, authentically, free from any kind of motive for fame or profit or adoration, but actually trying to achieve my actual constitutional position as a cooperative, subordinate servant to the Supreme Lord through serving my spiritual master, you will achieve more than you can even imagine or dream of. Anything greater, and there's nothing greater. And there's forever happiness, forever youth, no disease, no envy, no arguing, quarreling, nothing like that. No wars. Everything is always increasing in bliss, and everyone likes each other. We actually all are friends. And it's not sentimental. It's based on real love. Yes?
Don't even need one more pension?
Pension. Don't need any more pensions. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I thought it was really interesting. It said astrologers that Brahmins, and so
Yeah.
that's important.
Well, yeah.
And I think BBT has released a book a couple of years ago called "How to Mess Up Your Life with Astrology."
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
There's a book like that?
It's a book.
Who wrote it?
A devotee who's a PhD counselor and she's Indian by Mayapur, I think she lives.
Yeah.
And she was trained by traditional astrologers, Vedic system. And so, if they're not a Brahmin,
If you're
then they
uncomfortable,
would
you can
read
sit in a
anything.
chair, by the way. So,
if they have a rasa basa lifestyle and they read mixed,
well, if they're
not
not
pure.
pure, the motives aren't pure.
right, then they will tell you what you want to hear, or they will
Right.
tell you what they want to say. They will direct you, thinking they're giving you good advice in their flavor of
Yeah.
life. And so
It's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, so
but
and a
I'm
lot
sure
of
there's some very sincere people. Prabhupada always was very. He wasn't. He said that the last bona fide astrologer and sage was his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
because he's
But then there were people that wanted to do astrology, and Prabhupada said no. And then there were times when Prabhupada didn't seem to, but he. I met one, but there's like one story where a devotee had gotten like what do you call it? Like not an amulet, but get this thing for a stone or something that ward off the effect of Rahu, which is.
oh, that's like Navaratnam.
So he and Brahmananda noticed it, and he went to Prabhupada about it, and Prabhupada told him that all you need is the Hare Krishna mantra. You don't need to worry about all those other things. So I'm not going to say anything bad about people that do it, or
Just be aware.
Just
be
be,
aware.
you know.
That's what the book said. Just be aware.
I mean, I have my, where I chant the Narayana Kavacha Shield mantra. I've been doing that for, but
That's Narayan.
it's all the incarnations of God
Mhm.
to protect you at all different times of the day, for all different types of situations. It's like, but, and then also I do the Nrsimha Kavacha. There's an Abhishek ceremony on YouTube in Bangalore of a Nrsimha Dev deity that's very similar to the one in Mayapur. And then they chant, it's like a 5-minute mantra they chant. And I like to meditate on that, you know, things like that. And but also the main thing is chanting 16 rounds. Chanting 16 rounds, actually listening to them, as we were discussing last time. You know, I've been really working on that, but even though I think, oh yeah, I'm listening, yeah, I got it now. See, not like yesterday. You know, I mean, yesterday I wasn't listening at all. But now, really, I've been listening. So this meditation is not so easy.
What?
So it's getting late. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
that's
it's
all
that
right.
time.
I mean, I
Another
don't think
time.
people are hungry or anything
Yeah.
like that. You
None-
can,
The real welfare. It talks about this.
the real welfare, yeah,
Yeah.
not like, but I, you know, just like, it really bothers me when I hear these politicians talk about entitlements.
Mm.
They say it like it's a dirty word.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you actually paid, you made a contract at the beginning of your work life that they'll take out so much money and put it in this account. And then when you're older and you can't work anymore, we'll give you back that money in increments. And then they go, people think they're entitlements. They need these entitlements. Well, why not?
Mhm.
It's mine.
It's,
I paid for it.
it's contract fulfillment.
Yeah, it's
We
not
were
sure.
people who weren't able to pay for it. Are we
Yeah,
so-
they
we
should be
care about
taken care
what we
Yeah, but you
about
care about other
people's
people. That's a
welfare?
Christian, you know, that's a Judeo-Christian,
Yeah.
you know, a Muslim. They all say you
Yeah.
should,
Careful.
you know, care for the, you know, your fellow. What to speak. Well, of course, not all of them go as far as we do in terms of like we have a retirement community here for old cows. You know, most people wouldn't bother with that. They just send them to a slaughterhouse
Mhm.
and make money off of the carcass. Yeah, but welfare, yeah, you should care about welfare. And to make profit off of someone's health, I mean, I just, you know, I was a capitalist. I had a business and I, you know, made profit off of selling oil paintings and other things like that. But making profit off of, I mean, obviously the doctors and the hospitals and the pharmacists, they all need to make a salary and a living. But to make profits, huge, enormous profits off of it. I've lived in countries that have the so-called socialized medicine, you know, and it's actually, you know, it's not perfect, but you never worry about it. You don't worry whether you're sick. You don't even think about it. You just go and they take care of you. Can you imagine that? Yeah, so